will play in the Hall of Fame game against the Texans on August 1st. Like Houston, starting training camp earlier than most. Several new faces there. Top 10 picks: Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Kevin Byard, Jonathan Owens, couple of new O-linemen. Lots of faces to work in as Courtney Cronin is there at Bears camp at Hallis Hall in Lake Forest. Just 13 days away. Hard to believe from the Hall of Fame game, Courtney. So what are the expectations for Williams as they begin practice tomorrow?
Hannah, the expectation when Caleb Williams was drafted here is that he's the quarterback of the future. He is the starter, and that's the reason why they didn't bring in a veteran quarterback to create an apprenticeship or a competition. Matt Eberflus handed Caleb Williams the reins of this offense before his first ever practice in May, but that doesn't mean that they don't expect him to have some sorts of bumps in the roads, any struggles. And even Williams was realistic about what he expects to happen in practice as early as tomorrow.
I mean, I've had rough days. I expect myself to go out there. I think I'm the toughest on myself. I go out there and I'll mess up a play. I've thrown a pick in mini camp and things like that. So being tough on myself, but also having an understanding of where we are and where I am, and the progression, like I said before, is key. Those bad times, it's not a time to have self-doubt. That's just a waste of time. It's a time to keep growing, keep progressing, and keep believing in yourself.
Williams said he wants to go as fast as possible in trying to learn the offense, trying to establish a deep passing attack, all the things that made him a Heisman Trophy quarterback at USC. But he understands that time, being patient with himself, not trying to go at the speed of any other offensive player, learning a new system is going to be critical in that. And we're 13 days away from when we may potentially see Caleb Williams in his first preseason action in that Hall of Fame game in Canton. Matt Eberflus said the Bears are working out a plan for how much run he'll get in the preseason. They have a good blueprint to work off of based on last year's first-round quarterbacks. Anywhere from 45 to 55 snaps, that's how much you should expect for Caleb Williams over the course of 4 games.
As he'll be facing one of those quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, in less than 2 weeks. Courtney, thank you. And Caleb would certainly like to end a century-long streak of quarterback futility in Chicago. This is just depressing. In their 104-year history, the Bears have never had a player throw for 4,000 yards or for 30 touchdowns, and even Field Yates did not know that. And since trading away Super Bowl winner Jim McMahon, they have started 39 different quarterbacks, second most in that span behind the Browns. Ouch. So his contract situation is resolved. Let's look to the future as everybody in Chicago is. What sort of impression is he made in the building so far?
Yeah, Hannah, I talked to somebody with the team who said you can feel and see how talented he is. He makes the wow throws, smooth mover. The transition is with the NFL-style offense, the play action, the stuff under center that he didn't do at USC. You could see it was a little bumpy at times in the spring, but they know that Caleb Williams has been working on it tremendously, even dating back to the late winter with his private quarterbacks coach, Will Hewlett. He was doing the steps, the footwork in anticipation of being a Chicago Bear. So now he's got to get that down. But I'm told Williams likes it. He believes that will protect him long-term, being able to take the ball under center.
He's a guy that understands the challenge. When we spoke at the rookie premiere, he was talking about the progression of learning the offense and how he wanted to do everything at one time. And there were hard times, there were adversities, there were some things that he had to overcome, some days where he wasn't the Caleb Williams that we know and saw at Oklahoma and USC, but he also understood those were the days that helped him grow the most. And I think Caleb Williams is going to get an opportunity to show us how talented he is at some point in this season. But for Shane Waldron, Ryan Poles, and Matt Eberflus, it's going to be how much of this offense can he grasp and how those great veteran skill players around him allow him to come along slowly. So it's going to be leaning on DeAndre Swift, leaning on Keenan Allen, also guys like DJ Moore, Rome Odunze coming along, Cole Kmet at the tight end position. There are so many good skilled players offensively that he doesn't have to carry the entire load on his own. I believe he understands that. The coaching staff understands that. But when it's time to go above the X's and O's, there's going to be no quarterback in the league more prepared athletically than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and RC, you just mentioned 4 or 5 names that I think all of us would say that's a heck of a weapon to have around you, much less in aggregate. And think about where Caleb Williams was this past season at USC. Now, this team started 6-0, and it felt like they were perhaps going to be back on top of the college football world. But the skill group around Caleb Williams last season, very different than what he'll be throwing to now in Chicago. I mean, I know it's been said a million times since the draft was in late April, but let's just reiterate one more time. This is about as good of a spot as you'll find for a rookie #1 overall pick quarterback. First of all, it wasn't the Bears who earned that #1 overall pick, so it was not the worst team in the NFL this past season. And moreover, they had the resources. And so when you look backwards to when Ryan Poles got this job in Chicago, step one, Hannah, was tearing down the roster and offloading some of the bad contracts and trading away veterans and difficult decisions to acquire future draft capital so that when it was time to pounce, he could. This offseason, between the Keenan Allen trade, having the extra first-round pick to acquire Rome Odunze, 9th overall, one of the 6 best players in the draft, in my opinion, this team is ready for liftoff. It's a tough division, to be clear, but this team is ready for major strides this season after some promise last year, but ultimately probably a disappointing finish for Chicago.
Yep.
So, okay, the thing that I really want to talk about in this clip is actually how much Caleb Williams has already come around. I think before he ever did any type of actual NFL practices or, any type of true growth within the Chicago Bears themselves, he kind of came out a little bit more cocky, overconfident than I would have liked personally, which I've talked about. At this point, this was a couple months ago. He was just making certain statements that made me slightly I kind of wish he didn't say that. And I'm a big fan and big believer in Caleb Williams, but that was definitely something where I was like, I get it. You're confident, you're excited, but I wish you would just settle down ever so slightly. Not a lot. He's not over the top, but I'm just come on, just you gotta be a little bit, more humble. And then listening to him talk now, and some of the things that he's saying, I'm like, yes, this is what we need to hear from Caleb, is this acceptance and this deep understanding that you're not going to have it all right now. Because a lot of young quarterbacks, especially at quarterbacks like that of a Caleb, who've been told that they are God's gift to the earth since they were probably 4 years old, 3 years old. Seriously, these people are showered with praise, and they are, because they're elite athletes from a very young age, and they just keep getting better and better and better and better and better, and they have success everywhere they go. That it's hard for them to really have a deep level of humility. And so when they do get to the NFL, they don't actually have a deep understanding and acceptance that they're not just going to be able to just hit the ground running and just be able to understand everything right off the bat. We see a lot of quarterbacks and just athletes in general from all different sports struggle with that. And I would say that's not going to be Caleb Williams. And it's also kind of great why, at USC things kind of fell apart, honestly. It's just we saw him be humbled in that regard as well. And it's just so important. And it's important to understand that for not only for his own confidence building, but for him to be humble enough to ask the questions that he needs to ask. Because you also have a lot of these players, they want to pretend like they understand everything, and they're afraid to ask questions. Seriously, they'll oftentimes what you see in the NFL, and again, this is also for all professional sports and even lower than that, college even, or even maybe even high school, is sometimes you want to just kind of give off this energy that you know exactly what's going on, you don't have any questions, and you're comfortable with everything, and it's just kind of fake it till you make it. Until you find maybe a coach that you have extra rapport with, someone that you really trust. Most of the time it's not the head coach. It could be a QB coach, OC, whoever. And that's who you kind of ask the questions, right? You feel more comfortable being vulnerable with that coach. Even another teammate, maybe an older teammate. That's when we often talk about having that veteran leadership, that veteran presence. You're just a little bit more comfortable asking maybe questions that you think are afraid that are going to be dumb or because there's a lot of things you have also what's called, the effect where you don't necessarily feel like you belong. You feel like you're kind of pretending like you actually belong. It's something that happens a lot in life in general, but definitely in sports. And it's this feeling that you're an imposter. It's called imposter syndrome. And the best people, the greatest athletes will feel that. The smartest people in the world will feel that. Patrick Mahomes has moments where he thinks I don't actually belong here. I'm an imposter. It's a real thing, imposter syndrome. And so you then, like, again, it kind of makes you want to like fake it till you make it. Or when you have some of these questions, you don't ask them because you're just like, I should know this. And it's difficult. It could be difficult. And it seems like Caleb, though, is already managing that extremely well, and is humbling himself, and is not afraid to throw the interception, because the interceptions in practices is always interesting. When you're a quarterback, throwing interceptions in practice is almost like equivalent to a wide open basketball player, wide open shooter missing a lot of shots. For those of you who may not know, like in the NBA, when you're that good, when you're like a Steph Curry, open shots, they're literally shooting like 80 to 90%. No exaggeration. That's when you're wide open, these shooters are literally 80, 90%. Steph may even be more. I mean, who knows? And then it's what it is the shooting percentage balances out when someone's like in your face and all of that. So then it drops down to the 50, 40, obviously, depending on wherever you are on the court. And so it's just like if you're in warm-ups and practice, whatever it is, and you're shooting 60%, even 70%, that's not good, right? Like that's actually not good when you're wide open. And so in practices, a lot of these quarterbacks, if they're throwing interceptions in practice, it's like, this is practice. I should not be throwing any interceptions. And again, it's one of those things that then starts to like shut you down. It makes you start to feel smaller. It does start to emphasize this imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't belong, and now you're afraid to ask questions, and you just have to, you just kind of shrug it off. You throw an interception. Maybe it was because of a bad read, but you're just like, nah, I just lost. I just lost the ball in my hand. It just came out weird for me. Right? No. I understand. I see what I did. It wasn't that. It just came out of my fingertips weird. It's all good. It's all good. Right? Rather than being like, actually, I saw this, and then they did that, and I actually just got fooled. Like, what actually happened? Right? Like, it's just different. So I think really all the things that I've been hearing about Caleb is great. I just believe he already has the physicality. He already has the skill set. The rest is, can the mind follow, right? Can he be humble? Can he ask the right questions? Can he not shut down when he does make a series of mistakes? If he does have back-to-back drives that are just ugly, right? An interception, and then that next drive just goes 3 and out. But it's guaranteed to happen. And I think he'll be able to overcome it all. I really, really do. That's why I'm really excited to see what he can do. And the last point that I want to emphasize is, because a lot of people have said this recently, anytime you talk about Caleb, is like, he's really not that good. He wasn't able to overcome, issues in college. So why is he going to be able to overcome it in the NFL? And I just think that's just one of the most bizarre statements I could ever hear. And just look no further to the most recent Patrick Mahomes. Like, when you're in college, you're so limited by what you can and can't do. You're limited by the people around you, the coaches, the defense. It's just like, this idea that if Caleb Williams was truly that great, he would have been able to lead USC to the promised land, is just comically absurd, right? like Travis O'Shea says, like, this is not Madden. This is not the way it works. So to gauge his lack thereof of carrying USC and being able to overcome any deficits that they may have, as a way to now say that, see, Caleb won't be able to thrive in the NFL or with the Chicago Bears, is comically absurd to me, right? It really is. So I just wanted to point that out, because it seems like the last Bears video that I made, a lot of people were saying that, and I was just like, I don't even know if I should respond to that. Like, I don't even know what to say to this. It's such an absurd statement to make. But yeah, no, I think things are definitely looking up for the Bears, and I'm really, really hopeful and excited to hear what I'm hearing from Caleb Williams and his progress already. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Caleb Williams is already well on his way to being a top quarterback in the NFL? Do you think the Bears are set to make some serious, inroads this season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.